Welcome to Women Awakening. I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time. We're changing lives one woman at a time. In fact, we're changing the planet one woman at a time. I'm so grateful to be with you, to introduce you to women that inspire me, that are making a difference on the planet simply because they chose to awaken. So my guest today is someone that I love. I'll tell you the story of how we met in a minute, but her name is Stephanie Rafflelock, and she's the author of a delightful little book of aging. She's a graduate of Naropa University program in writing and poetics. She's penned articles for numerous publications. She's also the host of Coffee Table Wisdom. It's a podcast, and it promotes healthy aging in mind, body, and spirit. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you. It is a thrill to be here.
So many years ago, I get a call from this woman who says, in my office, somebody had this book, and it was your book, and I want to meet you, and I want to talk about you coming and doing something for women. That has seeded a relationship and a friendship over the years that has been powerful and enlivening for me and supportive of my health and well-being. And so I wanted you to meet her because she's really an inspiration. She has reinvented herself many times, which is the process of awakening. So Stephanie, I want you to talk to us about what you do in the world and why you do it.
Well, what I do in the world is a reinvention. For a long time, I ran my husband's clinical practice, and I don't regret a moment of that. We had a great partnership in marriage, and the fact that we worked together day by day really grew up our marriage quickly. When we retired, he continued to do consulting work in the nutraceutical industry, so he kind of had his path mapped out. But things were wide open for me. I no longer needed to work. That was a great blessing. So I pursued what I have wanted to pursue for a long time, and that is writing. And writing has been a slow process because we'd all like to believe that we're a literary savant, but I wasn't that. I was a rookie. So I've made all the rookie mistakes. And my book, which I'm going to hold up, a
Yay.
delightful little book on aging, releases April 28th of this year. And this book is a slim volume of essays about my perspective of aging, and more specifically, aging with women. Because I'll bet you the farm that no one ever said to Warren Buffett, do you ever think about maybe doing a little lift here? But women get this fear about my face is changing, my body is changing, my worth is tied up in it. Maybe we don't say it that straight up to ourselves. So my whole process now is I write about positive aging and I speak about positive aging. I'm doing a presentation at the Charles Schwab campus here. We hope that it's going to be a live event. It may be a virtual event like this, but I'm talking to women in finance. And, for a long time, the financial world was the purview of privileged white men. Now, companies like Charles Schwab are recruiting women to be financial advisors. They're recruiting people of color. They're recruiting from the LGBTQ community. So you've got this fabulous diversity. And I get to go talk to these women about what it means to age and rise up and claim your maturity, to claim your mature voice, and realize that you, in spite of the advertising industry, have tremendous value. So that's what I do.
Absolutely. Well, and what this is great, and I want to talk about this, but see, I want people to know you didn't just leap into this place. You've had different careers.
Yes.
Your beauty has been an entree point at certain places because you had that charisma and that beauty. And how did you get from identifying yourself by the outer to bringing the wholeness of you to the planet today?
I think that's still an ongoing process for me.
Mm.
That becoming whole is an ongoing process. But one of the things that I looked at was I wanted to keep expanding. I just read Twyla Tharp's book. It's called Keep It Moving. Twyla
Mm-hmm.
Tharp, for those of you who don't know, is a great dancer. She's in her 70s now. She still choreographs. She still teaches. But one of the things she said is in dancing, there are two movements. There is the expansive movement and there is the contracting movement. And if you contract, and we talked about this a little bit on my podcast, you and I,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if you contract, if the muscles atrophy, the heart and the mind are soon to follow.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I approached aging as what's most important? Is it my physical beauty or is it the fact that I keep moving? And it was the fact that I keep moving.
Yeah.
So every day I get up and walk. You know, the dog is my best trainer. He wants his walk, he reminds us, and he lets us know.
Mm.
So I keep moving in that way. I do some yoga, I do some stretching, I do whatever I can to keep my body flexible because I want to keep my beliefs and my thoughts flexible too. I want
Mm.
to keep my heart flexible so that it's open to the world. So that's the number one thing to me is that it's really about a kind of attitudinal health that has a physical component to it. Our
Mm.
attitudes, our adaptability, and our activity. I think that's what makes us age well. And those were the things I discovered through the writing process. And like you said, it didn't come on day one. It was a
Right.
period of time. It's like the mantra for myself was just keep writing. More
Yeah.
will be revealed. Keep writing. More will be revealed. And
Yes.
even now that this little book is done and it's coming out, I'm still learning about the process. What does it mean to age well? What does it mean to be a mature woman?
Mm.
And it really doesn't have anything to do with looks at all. Even though I
Right.
kind of surprise myself when I walk past the mirror sometimes, it goes, "Whoa, there's a lot going on under there."
Yeah,
You know,
I have looked in the mirror and said, "Oh wow, who is that?"
who
I
was
don't
that?
exactly. So I love the expansion and the contraction. You know, when we talked earlier, it was like the three aspects of healthy aging are your eyesight, your memory, and movement. And so um, but you know, expansion is physical, but it's mental and it's emotional and it's spiritual. You know, so what do you think it is that women are struggling the most with today? I mean, I realize there's a lot going on the planet. There's, you know, the pandemic, there's all kinds of things going on, but what do you think women are struggling with the most individually?
I think that we struggle with surrendering to the grief process.
Mm.
I think that grief is a great transformative force. And there is some grief in aging. And I'm not talking about the kind of grief that you get stuck in. I'm talking about the kind of grief that breaks open your heart. It's not meant to break your heart, it's meant to break open your heart. And
Mm.
so we don't know how to grieve the loss of athletic prowess. I keep moving, but there are certain things I just can't do anymore.
Mm.
I can't run. I can't play tennis. I've got some disc degeneration in my lower back. But that doesn't mean I can't walk 3 to 5 miles every day. That doesn't mean that I can't do Pilates or some yoga. Some of my yoga is chair yoga now. Um, so I have been through that grief process of like, oh, I'm sorry to let this go, but I have to let it go. There is a grief that comes with losing one's physical appearance. I'm sorry to let this go, but I got to let it go. And I think about my mother, who was 90 when she passed, and I think, you know, I never once looked at her in her old age and went, oh man, that's just not an attractive woman. I just never once even said that. So why would I say that to myself? You know, I saw the sparkle in her eyes till the day she died. She had a wicked, wicked bad sense of humor.
Mhm.
And it always kind of sparkled in her eyes. There was always mischief under the surface. Um, so I think women struggle with that point of grief. That grief is not meant to be stuck in, it's meant to be the bridge. I have lost my athletic prowess, and now what? I've lost my physical beauty the way that it was. What's beautiful about me now?
Mhm.
So I think that what we struggle the most with is giving ourselves to the process of grief that acts as a bridge and allows us to ask the question, this being so, how shall I proceed? As the Zen
Ye-
saying goes.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Here's the thing too. It's like so many of us are experts at beating ourselves up. We're experts at, pulling ourselves down and not loving and honoring each other. But the truth is um, that the self-talk that we do and the lack of self-judgment of ourselves and of other women creates a space for more love and more caring and more support. So I want to know, you know, you did a lot to get ready to write this book. It was evolutionary, and there's a
Yes.
lot of people who listen to this who want to be writers. And so, what are the three things you would tell people about if you want to be a writer? What do you do?
I would say first become a student of
Mhm,
writing.
mhm.
Give yourself to being a student and take a humble position of being a student. Like I said, I would love to believe when I wrote my first novel, I really wanted to be the literary savant. I worked with a guy named Larry Brooks who said to me, you're probably going to have to write like 3 or 4 of these to get good at it. And I listened to what he said and I smiled and I nodded and I thought, no, not me. I won't have to do that. Well, I did write several novels. And then I found out that my real wheelhouse was in the personal essay. And I thought, well, what am I going to do with a personal essay? Well, what I found out was we're all connected by our stories. And the little story that I tell you about my mother will enliven in you. Oh, I have a story like that about my mother too.
Yes.
And so there's this connection. So that's what I write now. That's how I write. And it can be small works like a delightful little book on aging, or I'm working on a much larger manuscript now that is still a series of personal essays because I'm like that opinion column writer that says, this is what my story is and this is what I think about it.
Right. Well, what I love is that through this process, and it was a
It
process,
was a process.
you found your voice and you found your genre. Just because we think it's one thing doesn't mean that's what
That's
ultimately
right.
it will become. Right.
That's right. So being a student, number one, I want to tell you number two and number three. Number
Okay.
two is if you want to be a writer, get your butt in the chair every morning.
Mhm.
And even if like your goal is really simple, start out slow. Okay, I'm going to do 300 words today. I'm going to do 500 words today. I'm going to do 1,000 words today. Whatever it is, but stick with it because that's what builds the writing muscle. You can't get really good unless you practice. So you become a student, you get your butt in the chair. And the third thing is read. The quality of your work will be reflective of the quality of your reading. So find authors that you want to write like them and read them. Read Cynthia
Beautiful.
James.
Thank you. So, so before I ask you the final question, how do people find you? What's your website? How do they get in touch with you?
My website is stephanierafflelock.com. I'm also on Facebook. Do you have show notes page?
No, I don't have a show notes page.
Okay, well, I think I may have to post up under you someday that Stephanie
Right.
Rafflelock is how it's spelled. It's Stephanie is the classical spelling of Stephanie, put a period, and Rafflelock is Rafflelock.com. So that's how people find me.
Beautiful. And we will put that also, we'll post that in when we post the podcast.
Wonderful.
So, your book comes out at the end of April. And
Yes.
so, everybody, you want to get this book because she's a great storyteller, and it's called A Delightful Little Book on Aging. Yes. So, what do you want women to walk away with? What do you want women to know as we end this podcast today?
What I want women to know is that aging is a remarkable and noble passage, that it will enliven the courage within you. I want women to know that now is the time to stand in the light of their truth and to speak their truth that becoming a mature woman in this world is a beautiful process, and we are all gifts to this world. So work it.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful you were here. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Cynthia.
And ladies, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out to meet extraordinary women who are doing things to not only change their lives, but to bring a different frequency to the planet. You know, we're adding new content to this podcast page all the time. So come back again and again and meet somebody new that just inspires your heart. Um, these women are amazing, and they're awakening to their magnificence and their power, and they are not an exception. You have the same energy, the same power within you. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. Much love.